development. So we heard all the problems, right? Modernization, the problems that we are facing. To this session focuses on, thank you. This session focuses on sustainable development and its challenges. So we are going to hear a little bit about the development and the different kinds of resilience or different kind of sustainable development activities, projects, and the challenges that we are facing as researchers and also in relation to the state and society. So we have fantastic papers. So my first request is that please take out your pen and paper because that's a must. But take out, or if you take notes on your cell phone or mobile phone, it's okay. But please, and make sure that you are writing down what you learned from each paper. Two things: what it is about, what the paper is arguing, what's the argument, what the author is arguing, is trying to prove, and if a question you have. Because this is your methodology class. Because this will really help each one of us. Because for that way we can find out what the paper is about, what the author is arguing, what new things the author is telling us, and what's our question in relation to our own personal experience and our own research. Because this is a research university, we all are doing research, right? Yeah. So thank you so much for your good listening and good kind of questioning. I hope you will bring some good questions. Let's start before I further ado. So I would like to, we have one presentation online. I would like to invite Dr. Arnab Roy Chaudhary, Department of Sociology, Moscow, Russia. He is on virtual mode and there is no topic here in this. Roy Chaudhary will be introducing his paper and something about himself to discuss. And I think I am a stickler of time, so it says that you have 30 minutes, 20 minutes. So would you mind doing the presentation in 10 minutes so that we leave 10 minutes for question and answer? Is that okay, sir? Can you hear me? You are on mute, I think. Can you hear me? Are you on mute?
I don't think he is on mute.
He cannot hear me. You have to go there. Dr. Roy Chaudhary, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I said, just to repeat myself, just to repeat myself that your presentation will be for 10 minutes and we are leaving 10 minutes for question and answer. Is that okay with you?
For me, actually, the presentation would probably need a bit more time.
Okay.
Question and answer can be a bit late. Yeah.
Okay, 12 to 15 minutes then. Let's start. Right. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes. Can you say yes?
Okay, great.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. Okay, great. Okay, thank you so much. So for today, I am going to present my paper which is titled Mapping Apparatus, Statelessness, Amphibian Life and the Rohingya Boat People of Asia. So first of all, I am a bit sorry because most of my slides are text heavy. So there's a lot of text in my slides, but I will try to present briefly within about 10 to 15 minutes the main argument, the main idea of the paper. So most of you already probably know about the Rohingyas of Myanmar, so I'll just give you a small introduction. So in Myanmar, this majority civil society has long been hostile to the people known as Rohingya who are fleeing persecution in Myanmar from 1970s onwards. The Rohingyas are Muslims who have lived in Rakhine state for centuries, but the Myanmar government labels them as illegal Bengali migrants or Bangladeshi migrants. The citizenship law of Myanmar in 1982 has made them stateless. So the Rohingyas have become stateless because the Myanmar government does not recognize their citizenship. The recent democratization that happened in Myanmar, so from 2015 onwards as well as 2012 onwards, we see that the Myanmar government has democratized slowly. And under this situation, it facilitated a neoliberal expansion in the resource-rich Rakhine and intensified discrimination and violence. And the Rohingyas flee in large numbers. So these Rohingyas, they leave Myanmar. They flee Myanmar, also come to India illegally.
Please make your slides kind of in full
Who
screen.
travel on board to different countries illegally. They are, by the international media, they are termed as the boat people who travel from what? Sorry?
Can you make your
Can you
slides, slides full screen?
Okay, I'm trying. Yes. For some reason, I'm not able to make it full screen. Here the screen is not working.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. So, what we see in Myanmar is that the judiciary, the state, and the capital together produce categories of illegality and legality that constitute the amphibian life of the boat people and create for them an ambivalent identity of refugeehood and or statelessness. So here we present our ethnographic study of this violence and the cusp of South Asia and Southeast Asia, and we critically extend Giorgio Agamben's theory of state of exception and their life to elaborate upon the states of exception experienced by the boat people and conceptualize the notion of amphibian life by analyzing their agentic capability after and beyond their life. So in this paper, I make a slightly new argument. I go beyond Giorgio Agamben's notion of their life, and I argue that these are not simply their life, but they are amphibian life. The media calls them boat people. They are termed as irregular maritime migrants in the literature of migration. These boat people are composed of mostly the Rohingyas, a small number of Bangladeshi laborers migrating to South Asian countries in hope of a better life. But the stateless Rohingya are evidently the more marginalized population here. Since 2008, the Thai Royal Navy has pushed these boats away from the coast, but activists persuaded the Thailand government to let them land on humanitarian grounds. Smugglers have charged exorbitant sums to transport these people to this safe haven, but they have exploited the illegal status of the Rohingyas. They are encamped in Thailand and extorted and sold to Thai fishing industry, where they are forced to work and they are killed when deemed disposal. So the chain of events, the actual event started in 2015. At that time, I was doing a postdoctoral fellowship in National University of Singapore, where me and my Bangladeshi friend Ahmad Abi, who has been working on the Rohingyas for the last 10 years, we started a project in the year 2015. So the citizenship law in 1982 made the Rohingyas formally stateless in Myanmar. On 11 February 2015, President of Myanmar, Thein Sein, announced that temporary registration card or white card of the Rohingya would expire on 31st March, and this had to be returned to the authorities by 31 May. Compelled to give their white cards, fearing that this enfranchisement was the final step taking away their semblance of citizenship rights, their own only protection, and genocide might follow. Thousands of Rohingya left for Malaysia on board. And at last intensified, the representatives of 17 affected countries, including Bangladesh, held an emergency meeting in May 2015. The government of Thailand and Malaysia launched a crackdown on the trafficking boats, and they found hundreds of mass graves of the Rohingya boat people and jungle camps of the traffickers along both sides of the border in Malaysia and Thailand. As the flux intensified, the representatives of 17 affected countries, including Bangladesh, held an emergency meeting in May 2015. The government of Thailand and Malaysia launched a crackdown of the trafficking boats, and they found hundreds of mass graves of Rohingya boat people and jungle camps of the traffickers along both sides of the borderland. Later that month, 8,000 Rohingya tribes in Malaysia, but the authorities refused permission to land. Fearing arrest, the smugglers abandoned the boats in the sea. The regional states were slow to respond, and many children, women, and elderly died of starvation. The boat people crisis became an international humanitarian scandal. Later, with aid from Qatar government, Malaysia and Indonesia agreed to give these people temporary asylum, but not the status of political refugees. The argument. So what is my argument? So in this paper we present the key case of majority stateless Rohingya boat people. We argue that boat people's problem is manufactured. There has been a long-standing xeno-racist discourse rooted in the anti-colonial struggle of Myanmar against the dark-skinned South Asian population. In a statement made on 16 November 1977, the Ministry of Home Affairs, in concert with the Theravada Buddhist civil society, the post-coup military state has mobilized and reinvigorated this manufactured discourse in Myanmar. We stress that the intensification of problems in 2012 and the resultant massive transformation of Rohingya lives and dispossession of the Rohingya, which took place simultaneously with the phased democratization of Myanmar from 2011 to 2015, is related to the capitalist accumulation and imperative of economic growth, as the state needs investment in the resource it's lacking. These imperatives amplified the disenfranchisement and violent expulsion of Rohingya ongoing since 1970 and culminated in the boat people crisis in 2016. The seafood industry of Myanmar is partially sustained by the unsustainable extraction of marine life and the exploitation of cheap informal migrants and illegal unskilled labor such as the Rohingya. The violence takes place with the active collusion of the regimes of illegality and legality. Capital operation in the neoliberal regulatory context of Myanmar, the state, the judiciary, their rules, norms, and practices create the underbelly of forced migration, circumscribed by immensely brutal but underrated violence, often enacted at the marginal space of discursive and cartographic oversight, such as the resource frontiers and borderland of South and Southeast Asia. The novel argument is that to elucidate and conceptualize this process, we anchor and develop our argument by critically extending our government's concept of state of exception and bare life. We elaborate upon the novel existential states of exception experienced by the boat people. We analyze how they exercise their mobile agency, their resilience to cope, and transcend the nakedness of their lives. We propose the notion of amphibian life, and in enunciating a framework, we use concepts developed by other scholars. Methodology and fieldwork, how this all started. While conducting a pilot study of child trafficking in Mysore, in Tak province, on the Thailand-Myanmar border in April 2007, one of us, so my friend, Ahmad Khan, found 200 Rohingya men living in an empty field. 95% were Arakan Muslims from Myanmar and 5% were Bangladesh. They had set up fishing boats from Bangladesh.
Sorry to interrupt, sir.
But the coastal police intercepted them at Ranong Island. They reached the Mysore safe area, but they could not escape from the journey. And the brokers abandoned them. This unplanned
Sorry to interrupt, sir.
happened.
But can we?
Hello?
Sorry to interrupt, sir. But can we come to the conclusion a bit faster?
Okay, sure.
Thank you,
no
sir.
problem. Okay, yes. I will conclude. So, I will come to our reconceptualization, which is the last part of the presentation. So, conceptualization of their life provokes an abject imagery of righteousness and immobility of a subject that entirely lacks agency. However, it needs contextualization. The Rohingya resist these exploitative processes, but viewing the resistance as a binary between total obeisance and resistance could be inauthentic, as the dual dynamics of governance and resistance creates new subjectivity. As they are forced to flee, they exercise a certain agency. They choose their destination, Bangladesh, Thailand, or Malaysia, and their medium of transport, the boat. A boat, unlike a cabin, law, mafia, and the brokers, or they hide and resist, or they work even in conditions where they are victimized. So through these agency and mobility, the everyday act of risk-taking, resistance, and resilience, the Rohingya boat people overcome the states of exception and circumstances of their life. To understand their condition, propose the notion of amphibian life. Translation of an is a metaphorical term used by an intermediate to depict how both people move in and out of land and water. We adapt and define the term and investigate new meaning to signify on an all-encompassing existential condition of being embedded in multiple layers of legality and illegality. The permanent unsettled deterritorialize the existence of both people and then continually shifting terrains of reality mold their subjectivity. They undergo the embodied and lived experience of force, peripatetic amphibian life that's contingent, precarious and liminal. In abundance between legality and illegality, land and water, space and place, their existence is spoiled between life and death and marked by in-betweenness. Their life vacillates perpetually between relatively secure camps, so temporarily a sudden contingent insecurity between the relatively secure camps and sea. The UN identity card made them feel partially integrated, but suddenly, in violation of the non-refoulement law, they are pushed back into the sea or places of origin, permanently forced to choose between prison and living invisible lives as illegal immigrants avoiding capture, or between dying in the sea and working as forced labor on fishing trawlers. The boat people exercise a certain agency, though limited in capacity and resilience, and though these choices are not free but contingent upon contextual situations. In one of the interviews that I took with the boat people, a Rohingya man we interviewed spoke to our life on land. But after I left home, a large part of my life has been spent in water and land under extreme torture and pain. I do not consider myself as human being anymore, because nobody considers us human anyway. We are somewhat below human other side. We are like animals. Perhaps you can call us a frog. Like frog, we are amphibians. We partly live our lives in and partly in water. We can only come out at night like the nocturnal animals. And like frog, we are dark and ugly, a drop in the face of humanity. He was crying uncontrollably as he spoke, leaving us speechless. The extreme experience of Omanus or subhumanization, as Nasiruddin, the famous scholar of Rohingya studies, says, that the Rohingya boat people have undergone has marginalized and alienated them from the developmental times. Thank you so much. So this year I kind of end my quick presentation. Because the presentation is quite long and I'm deeper in terms of theory. I would like to end it here because we do not have much time today. Thank you so much.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can see.
You can hear me. You can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Excellent presentation. Thank you so much for sticking to the time.
My pleasure.
Yeah, and you know this the topic on the Rohingya in Myanmar. We have heard horror stories about
Yes.
their marginality, their vulnerabilities, and their suffering. The kind of the violence is absolutely that kind of very, very difficult circumstances, whether it is the endangered laborers going from India on the boat to the kind of the Caribbean islands, or kind of the,
Right.
and as we know that even including Mauritius, Fiji, Trinidad, Tobago, among other places. So we know that how with nothing they have gone and how they have really recreated a life for themselves. Now India is celebrating the Pravasi Divas, as you all know, PBD, Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. Everywhere you see lights, everywhere you see the Chinese neon lights and those decorations, starting from the airport. But if we just look at the history, the dark history, it has been very, very dark. Because how
Yes.
people went and how they have survived and how many of them lost their lives. And we get the accounts through the writers, through the historians, and also through the insiders, people who have survived.
Right.
And how they have survived and also what they have built in order to keep their memory alive and also their heritage and their culture that we see through their spirituality, through their kind of also through whatever they have remembered, that making a new home for themselves and creating the identity, which as you said, it is not just a binary, it's not the tradition and modern, it is not just kind of that modern as opposed to tradition, rather how they have combined that kind of what they have left behind and what they are adopting, and that kind of using it as their agency, as their kind of I say that the Arabian life, as their also their space making for themselves, and then for the generations to follow. It's a very telling and a resilient story. Thank you so much, Professor Roy. So any question anybody has?
Yes.
Or any comment? Yes, no, you can take this one.
But
Oh, go on.
Professor Ramnath,
Yes.
this is a nice presentation. I have worked on also the issues of this Rohingya. As you know that it's a retrospective.
Introducing yourself.
I'm Professor Anil Mahapatra, teaching political science in Fakhruddin University. So you see that it is because of this all the problems you spoke that is regarding that is due to the it was retrospectively. That is why the Rohingya people they were they were not they were their citizenship was withdrawn. But my concern is what the ASEAN, because ASEAN is a part of ASEAN. Then second thing, we have a responsibility to protect clause. And all the Rohingyas are not boat people. All the Rohingyas are not boat people. Maybe some people are on the boat, but all the Rohingyas are not the boat people. So my concern is that what the ASEAN approach should be, why then all the ASEAN other 9 countries, they don't have this responsibility to protect, and what the UN is doing, why there is no such, because what I understand, there is a civil society which is against this. But still, as you know,
Generally speaking, when we are talking about sovereign power of nations, sovereign power of Myanmar, only one kind of civil society can work in balance to that, and that is the Myanmar civil society. But unfortunately, the power of the civil society in Myanmar is actually very weak. The global civil society and 9 ASEAN countries can put some pressure, but they have very limited power in comparison to the sovereign power of the Myanmar state inside Myanmar. That means the only civil society which can act against or act in balance to the Myanmar government is the Myanmar civil society. But unfortunately, civil society and the power of civil society in Myanmar is extremely reduced because of the military government. So the global civil society can only put some external pressure, but that pressure is very limited. They cannot force the sovereign power of the Myanmar government to change their decisions, unfortunately.
Thank you so much.
So the power of ASEAN is limited actually.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So please stay because we are going to, if you can, we are going to have other presentations, and maybe at the very end we will have a discussion bringing in all the presentations together. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you.
I request the chair of the session, Professor Annapurna Devi Pandya ma'am, to place the dais. I request Dr. Dipti Sahu ma'am to place the dais. I request Dr. Tanaya Mohanty ma'am to place the dais. I now request the student volunteers to offer saplings to our delegates. May I now request the chair of the session, Professor Annapurna ma'am, to carry forward with the session.
Good morning, everyone. Those of you who joined us now, I hope you had a good breakfast, so you are more cheerful and definitely with a full stomach. We listened to the presentation, I think, with more concentration. We discussed just before many of you came that I'm Annapurna Devi Pandey. I earned my bread doing anthropology, telling stories and collecting material from people who are different from me so that I get educated by them. We are very happy to be part of this session. This is an amazing session on sustainable development and its challenges. You just heard one paper on the Rohingya Muslims in Myanmar. The second paper, which is very much speaks to the topic that we are discussing, is by Professor Dipti Sahu from Trident Academy of Technology, Bhubaneswar. She is going to talk about Viksit Bharat, sustainable development and its challenges. Let's welcome Professor Sahu.
Well, a very good morning to all the esteemed dignitaries of the dais and on the dais, and my dear students and the participants of the esteemed international conference who are present over here. As we all know that the theme of the present conference that we are present over here is an international conference focusing on modernization and social change. Before I start my speech, I will first of all render my humble regards to Pavitra sir for giving me this opportunity to come from Bhubaneswar and attend this symposium. I will also render my humble regards to Annapurna madam, though I have met madam last 2 to 3 years. We have been meeting in different international forums. I would also render my humble regards to FM University for giving me this opportunity to come and address this massive gathering of students and eminent academicians and advisors and eminent dignitaries who are present today. Well, the topic that has been given to me is Sustainable Development and Viksit Bharat. Before I address, I would like to give a few introductions about myself. I am Dr. Dipti Sahu, working as Associate Professor in Trident Academy of Technology, Bhubaneswar, and I am heading the Department Center for Sustainability and Research over there. Last 2 years, we have started this specific, unique department which is specifically working on climate change and UN SDGs. We are member of United Nations HESI also, Higher Education Sustainability Initiative, and under that, we have groomed our students to be working on various perspectives of climate change, addressing various issues of our local communities to make our local communities climate resilient. Well, the topic that I will be addressing is Sustainable Development and Viksit Bharat, the pathways to progress. Because sustainability is not a new word right now. It has been there since a long time. Even in our Vedas, Upanishads, the concept, the term was not there, but the scenario was there. That means doing good in a better way. कुछ अच्छा करना है, कुछ और are not going to harm anyone's feelings, neither in my family, not in my workplace, not for the community. I should do such works or such activities that is going to create any problem. If any problems are there in my communities as an educationalist, as an academician, as a student or as a professional, what can I do to address these issues? When we talk about sustainable development, sustainability has become a concept wherein the student should know that we need to focus on three things. The responsible consumption of resources. Responsible consumption of resources in the sense we are eating foods. How much we are sensible enough to reduce food wastages in our day. दोस्तों के साथ भी पार्टीज मनाते हैं. Are we all conscious enough? I will not go into any theoretical perspective because many students are present over here. So when I saw so many students present over here along with esteemed dignitaries, so मेरा पहला फोकस रहेगा बच्चों आप अपने लाइफस्टाइल में थोड़ा परिवर्तन लाइए. Sustainable lifestyle. We are drinking water from water bottles. Are the water bottles sustainable? When we talk about this, sustainable means हम लोग जो पानी पी रहे हैं वो प्लास्टिक का बॉटल है. Is it single-use plastic? No, but it has its food grade quality. Can we substitute that with some sustainable option? Can anyone of the students present over here tell the sustainable option for water bottles? Sustainable option for water bottle. हम लोग प्लास्टिक के बॉटल में पानी पीते हैं. Metals? I expect everyone will say glass तो नहीं पी सकते हैं ना, glass तो मतलब it will मतलब break हो जाएगा, but it is very sustainable, but we cannot go for that. So can we make a substitute for that? Steel or any copper, brass, steel or any other materials. Similarly, we can go for other activities like community resilience. When we are going towards community resilience, we are associated with livelihood alternatives who are working with the FPOs, the Farmer Producer Organization of our state. Mostly when we go to the farming sector, as we all know, after 1980s, the eminent work being done by M.S. Swaminathan sir, the propagator of green revolution, जो कि बहुत जरूरी था 1980 में because the population rate was increasing, and as per the Malthusian theory, as we all know, we need to substitute the food security rate at that time. We have to multiply the food production, जिसके लिए the green revolution was enunciated. That means to double up the production process, use of hybrid seeds, fertilizers, use of chemical insecticides, pesticides, ये बहुत मात्रा में प्रयोग किए गए, जबकि उस समय as per the social perspective, little great tradition अगर हम देखते हैं, there at that time many people were less educated. Basically, the farmers were less educated, and the people who played a major role in formulation of the policies thought probably this can address the food insecurity problem. But if the farmers could have been given proper skill development, उनका अगर capacity development करवाया जाता, उसके बाद ये concept दिया जाता, then probably in the year 2000-2010 जो farmer suicide rate बढ़े, वो नहीं बढ़ते. And we all at present, when we ask to ourselves, हम लोग बचपन से लेके आज तक इसी भारत के देश में रहे हैं, जिस भारत में ये बोला जाता था, जहाँ डाल डाल पे चिड़िया करती है बसेरा, वो भारत देश है मेरा. क्यों बोला जाता था? It's my request to students, if anyone can speak. क्यों भारत को बोला जाता है? क्यों नहीं? अभी तो sustainability आ गया है ना, we are addressing climate change. तो पहले इसीलिए बोला जाता था because everyone was आत्मनिर्भर, self-sufficiency was there. The main focus of the present government focusing on addressing climate change even at the international forum is to make every individual, every community, every organization आत्मनिर्भर. क्योंकि अगर हम हर एक इंसान we are becoming conscious to address the basic issues that we are facing in our daily life through our own way, then probably it can lead to a विकसित भारत. समृद्ध सशक्त देश की जो परिकल्पना की जा रही है, वो सिर्फ अकेले सोचने से ही नहीं होगा. For that, we need to focus on our own ways, on our own lifestyle. Are we following a sustainable, healthy lifestyle? Over here, I would also like to ask to the people present, basically the students who are present over here, बच्चों आप सब खुश हो? Are you all happy? Is it so? How many of you say please? Yes, ma'am. And we are very happy. Please raise your hand. Very good. So few people are happy. हम लोग खुश क्यों नहीं है? क्योंकि जिंदगी में स्ट्रेस है, टेंशन है, फ्रस्ट्रेशन, सारे के सारे S. So that means we are not healthy. Health is well. बचपन से लेकर आज तक हम सब ये प्रोवर्ब पढ़ते आए हैं. But why are we not happy? Because happiness हमारे अंदर ही है. और विकसित भारत जो है ना, ये विकसित भारत हमारी चिंताधारा में ही है. स्वच्छता, जो स्वच्छ भारत मिशन है, स्वच्छ भारत मिशन का मतलब नहीं है सिर्फ अपने एनवायरनमेंट को सुरक्षित रखिए. स्वच्छ भारत मिशन का मेन फोकस है, आर यू योरसेल्फ सस्टेनेबल, आर वी clear so far as our thinking, our strategies, our designings are concerned. Wherever we are working, maybe in our homes, maybe in our professional organizations, or maybe in our collaborations when we are moving to different universities, different organizations, how we are disseminating this concept of sustainability happiness index. क्योंकि हम सबको पता है, gross domestic product depends upon the revenue that is generated. Per capita income से ही calculation होती है. But as per the new scenario, the concept is the GDP should be measured not on the basis of per capita income. It should be measured on basis of per capita income plus per capita happiness of every individual. Per capita happiness is what is required. तो जो समृद्ध सशक्त भारत की परिकल्पना की जा रही है, अगर हम सब जो इतने सारे so many people, so many eminent dignitaries, so many students of the universities sitting over here, some professing the career in sociology, political science, anthropology, so many departments. अगर हम एकत्रित हुए हैं, so may God Lord Jagannath bless all of us, may our dignity bless all of us, कि ये platform बने जहां से collaborative research on addressing various issues of climate change. अभी when I came, I heard the presentation being given by Arnab Royster, who was also focusing about the issues of Bangladesh. Now, one of the major problems which we all can face is the marine workers or the people working in the marine. They are facing so many problems. बांग्लादेश में है, ओडिशा में नहीं है. ओडिशा में तो 6 coastal districts हैं. 6 coastal districts में बहुत सारे farmer clusters हैं. Have we ever gone through the community? Have we intervened? What problems they are facing and have we addressed their issues? No. If no, then our work starts from today. We all should play our own individual role. अकेले हम सिर्फ सोच सकते हैं, but together, if we join hands, we can collaborate and do lots of impactful projects, lots of impactful works which can make our communities more resilient, more sustainable, विकसित और समृद्ध सशक्त विश्व. मैं सिर्फ भारत ही नहीं बोलूंगी, पूरे विश्व को विकसित करना है. तो पूरे विश्व को विकसित करने के लिए we have to think for the planet Earth, because planet Earth is crying. So अपनी planet Earth की आंखों से आंसू पोंछने के लिए, if we all can play our own role to address these major issues, climate challenges, the major challenges the farmers are facing, the communities are facing, the underprivileged communities are facing, and we are talking about other issues also, basically in the quality of education. In the quality enhancement of education, we have OBE, that is the objective-based education. What are the perspectives that we are providing to the students? In that perspective, we can provide the student exposure visits to address these issues of the local communities that can completely align with Vikshit Bharat, NEP 2020, and make our country Samrid Sasat. Thank you everyone. I thank everyone for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Professor Sahu, for focusing
reflecting on how we can make Vikasit Bharat possible, 2047. Of course, as we have been hearing since yesterday, 2047 is a dream. We do not know how many of us will be there, but of course you all. But at the same time, if we have to kind of, in order to think of, imagine, and even conceptualize 2047, how we can make the present, our life today, now, more meaningful, more fulfilling and gratifying and more sustainable. That's what Professor Sadhu was focusing on. Couple of things I would just like to reflect on. That she is doing sustainability research. She must be a person to go to because she is running this institute on sustainability. Today, sustainability is the buzzword because, as you know, with the rampant climate change and also the issue of isolation, what Dr. Pandey was telling us yesterday, disconnection, unhappiness, stress and strain, and most important is the issue of health that we know is connected with the environment. A couple of things we really need to think here that three things he mentioned about the responsible consumption of resources, community resilience, and also talking about happiness and sustainability index going hand in hand. So when we are thinking of the responsible consumption of resources, I think it's time for us to stay away from being Eurocentric. You know the most wasteful country in the world? Can anybody make a guess? United States of America. That even that 35% of the resources of the world is consumed by only 3% of the population. And the waste is immense in the United States. But at the same time, it is known as the number one country, the first world. If I think of the responsible consumption of this, we don't have to be West-centric. We really need to know how in our own house, when my mother, with 5 brothers and sisters, 4 brothers and I, when she had to cook a meal, ରାନ୍ଧିଲା ବେଳେ ସମସ୍ତେ ଓଡ଼ିଆ ବୁଝନ୍ତି ଚାଉଳ ପକେଇଲା ବେଳକୁ ମୋ ବୋଉ ଗୋଟେ ମୁଠା ଚାଉଳ ରଖେ କାଳେ ରେନି ଡେରେ ଚାଉଳଟା ସରିଗଲେ ସେଇ ଯେଉଁ ଚାଉଳଟା ଥିବ ସେଇଟା ଆଉ ଦିନ ରନ୍ଧା ହେଇଯିବ ସମସ୍ତେ ନିଶ୍ଚୟ ସେଇଟା କିଏ ଫିଲ୍ କରିପାରୁଥିବେ ନାଇଁ କି you know that a great writer, she came to Odisha. Her name is Barbara Kingsolver. And any of you have heard? She is a very well-known writer from United States. She writes about lived-in experience, very, very celebrated. Her sister happens to be a very close friend of Professor Pandey and I. She is my best friend, in fact. So, Anne Kingsolver, an anthropologist. So, she came to Odisha. She has written a small piece. I will recommend everybody to read. It's called What Money Cannot Buy. It's called What Money Can Buy, that's the title, and she comes to Baleshwar, by the way. ଆପଣମାନଙ୍କ ପାଖକୁ ବାଲେଶ୍ୱର ଆସିଲେ କାହିଁକିନା ଗୋଟେ ହେଫର୍ସ ଫାଉଣ୍ଡେସନ ଆପଣ ଶୁଣିଥିବେ ଗାଁ ମାନଙ୍କରେ ହେଫର୍ସ ଫାଉଣ୍ଡେସନ ଗୋଟେ ଅଛି ଇଣ୍ଟରନ୍ୟାସନାଲ ଏନଜିଓ ସିଏ କ'ଣ କରେ ସିଏ ପଇସା ଦିଏନି ଗ୍ରାଣ୍ଟ ହିସାବରେ କି ଏଡ୍ ହିସାବରେ ସିଏ ଦିଏ ଆନିମଲ୍ସ ମାନେ ଛେଳି ଗାଈ ବଳଦ କୁକୁଡ଼ା ସେଇଟା ଦେଇକରି ତା ଦ୍ୱାରା ପଇସା ଦେଲେ ଲୋକ ଖର୍ଚ୍ଚ କରିଦେବେ ତା ଦ୍ୱାରା ଲୋକ ଖାଲି ନିଜ ପାଇଁ ବଢ଼େଇବେନି ସେଇଟା ମଧ୍ୟ କମ୍ୟୁନିଟିରେ ସେୟାର ହେବ କମ୍ୟୁନିଟି ସମୃଦ୍ଧ ହେବ ସେଇଟା ତାଙ୍କର ପଲିସି କିନ୍ତୁ ହେଫର୍ସ ସେ ବାର୍ବରା କିଙ୍ଗସଲଭର came with Heifers Foundation. She kind of analyzed their project, their aid, କି କେମିତି ତାଙ୍କ aid better ହେଇପାରିବ. Barbara Kingsolver was so overwhelmed by the community women. Madam Koile, I tied with the community resource, community initiative. I'm going to try.
ସେ ଦେଖିଲେ ଗାଁର ସ୍ତ୍ରୀ ଲୋକମାନେ ଏକଦମ ପତଳା କେହି ଗୋଟେ ମୋଟା ନାହାନ୍ତି ଆମ ଭଳିଆ ଖାଇ ପିଇକିରି ତନ୍ଦୁରୀ ସକାଳୁ ଉଠି ମତେ କୁହାଗଲା ତମେ ମାଛଟା ପୁରୀ ଖାଅ ଆଉ ମଟର ତରକାରୀ ଖାଅ ତେଣୁ ତାହା ଖାଇଲା ମାନେ ଯାହା ଅବସ୍ଥା ସେମାନେ ଆଉ ତାପରେ କିଛି କାମ ନାହିଁ ଖାଲି ବସିବା ଏଠି ବସିକିରି ପଣ୍ଟିଫିକେଟ୍ କରିବା କ'ଣ ଖାଲି କଥା ଶୁଣିକିରି ଭାଷଣ ଦେବା ତେଣୁ ସେ କିନ୍ତୁ ସେମାନେ ବହୁତ କାମ କରନ୍ତି କାରଣ ଆପଣ ତ ଜାଣିଥିବେ ପଖାଳ ଖାଇଲେ କି ମାଣ୍ଡିଆ ଖାଇଲେ ବହୁତ କାମ କରେ ସମସ୍ତେ ପଖାଳ ପତଳା ସୋ their colorful sarees they give the bouquet flower ତାଙ୍କ ବଗିଚାରୁ ଆଣି ଗଛ କିନ୍ତୁ ସେ କହିଲେ ଯେ they have taken the efforts at another level କ'ଣ କରିଛନ୍ତି ସେମାନେ ସେମାନେ how ତାଙ୍କର ଯେଉଁ ଲିଡରସିପ୍ କ୍ୱାଲିଟି ଯେ କେମିତି ବ୍ୟାଙ୍କରେ ଆକାଉଣ୍ଟ କରିବେ ତାପରେ ଯଦି କୁକୁଡ଼ା ଆଉ ଛେଳି ସେ କହିଲେ ଯେ ସେ ଦେଖିଲେ ସ୍ତ୍ରୀ ଲୋକମାନେ ନିଜ ଉପରେ ଫୋକସ୍ ନ କରିକିରି କେମିତି ତାଙ୍କ ଚାରିପାର୍ଶ୍ୱର ସ୍ତ୍ରୀ ଲୋକମାନଙ୍କୁ ଉଠେଇବେ ତାଙ୍କ ଚାରିପାର୍ଶ୍ୱର ସ୍ତ୍ରୀ ଲୋକମାନଙ୍କୁ ଗୋଟେ ତାଙ୍କୁ ଏମ୍ପାୱାର କରିବେ ସେଇଟା ତାଙ୍କର ମଟୋ ଆଉ ସେଇ ମଟୋଟା ବାରବରା କିଙ୍ଗସବର କହୁଛନ୍ତି that does not come from efforts it comes from our ancient knowledge our ancient tradition ବୋଉର ଚାଉଳ ରଖିବା କିମ୍ବା ଏଇ ଯେଉଁ ଗାଁର ସ୍ତ୍ରୀ ଲୋକମାନେ ଆମେ କେମିତି ପରସ୍ପରକୁ ଟିକେ ଉନ୍ନତ ଦେଖିବା ପରସ୍ପରକୁ ଉଠେଇବା ସେଇଟା ହେଉଛି ଆମ ଭାରତର ଆମ ସଂସ୍କୃତିର ସେଇଟା ଗୋଟେ ହେଉଛି ବଡ଼ ଏଲିମେଣ୍ଟ ବଡ଼ ସୋ ବାରବରା କିଙ୍ଗସବର ରାଇଟ୍ସ that it is not efforts money but rather the ancient knowledge of the Indian culture the women's kind of collective knowledge the collective heritage that gives this initiative much more kind of that much more visibility and takes it to a different level. By the way, you know the Moody Cooperative, amara eiti Baleshwarre, Baripadare, Moody Cooperative they go to XIMB, they go to the UK and they go and talk about their kind of non-profit, their cooperative, how their cooperative has become so strong. So the XIMB pila management pila ବୁଝୁଛନ୍ତି ଯେ ଆରେ ଗାଁର ସ୍ତ୍ରୀ ଲୋକମାନେ ପାଠ ନ ପଢ଼ିକିରି ଆମେ ସବୁ ପାଠ ପଢ଼ି ବହୁତ ପଣ୍ଡିତ କିନ୍ତୁ ଆମେ ସେ ପାଠ ନ ପଢ଼ିକିରି ସେମାନେ ତାଙ୍କର ଯେଉଁ wisdom ଯେଉଁ ancient wisdomକୁ ନେଇକରି community resilience କରୁଛନ୍ତି. So my point here is happiness does not lie in kind of in pontificating, in telling do this, do this, do this. Happiness lies in changing our own lifestyle, changing our own way of looking at the world. And what Professor Pandey told yesterday, I've been thinking about it. Take advantage of the differences we have among us and learn from one another. So that's where we can see the Vikasit Bharat. Maybe I won't be there for 2047, but you will write stories about it. Thank you so much for Professor Sanu for talking about Vikasit Bharat. And let's just move to the next paper. This is by Dr. Kanaya Mahanti from Utkal University Sociology Department, Bhubaneswar. She is going to talk about modernity and identity, understanding the civics. Thank you.
Warm morning to one and all present here. Esteemed Chair, Dr. Pandey, delegates on and off the dais, the convener of the and the organizers of the seminar, Dr. Pavitra Nayak and his team, and my former colleagues and students. I'm really glad to be back here. And today I will be talking about modernity and identity, understanding the self. So basically, as a student of sociology, I know we are a myriad of diverse social science disciplines, so that's the reason why I need to position my local standing as a sociologist, that we have been trained to see things in a particular reference point, and for us that reference point is modern. As you all know that we normally owe the birth of this discipline to the major three revolutions that you all students have been reading about. The Enlightenment, the Industrial Revolution, and when we all believe that we all have gone through more or less the same phase of modernity. So, this is what most of the sociologists have been trying to understand over the decades, starting from the classical thinkers to the contemporary ones. But one thing that we are sure about is the kind of modernity that we are talking about. It's complicated in the sense when we look at our forefathers, the greatest challenge, the concern they had of the previous generation was to fight the limitations that was provided by nature, by their own setting, and the challenge that we face is in terms of dealing with the outcomes of our own actions. That is one of the defining features of modernity that didn't cease. For instance, when we talk about the previous generation, I would say that if somebody is traveling, the constraint was being that, okay, apart from the difficulties in transportation and communication, was that we will not be able to see the person or talk to the person. But today, when I say that, okay, somebody is traveling, I have my mobile phone where I can video call my daughter, you can see that your wife can keep track of you, of your locations in your mobile phone, and there is a kind of a mobile addiction going on. So, this is the problem of modernity that we face as a generation today. So, definitely there is a difference, and what Giddens talks, he talks in terms of reflexive modernity, and I believe that it is a kind of a Bhasmasura syndrome, because with such kind of risk, we are trying to destroy our own self-sustaining system, be it our planetary system or be it our system as a collective, that we live a kind of a collective life. So here comes the issue of identity. In pre-modern times, the way I related with my society, that was how my social identity was created, and it was again delimited by my traditions, by my kinship system, my ties, my locality. Today, you do see a lot of ambiguity. Basically, if you talk about identity, to speak in very simple terms, I believe an identity could be just taken as certain traits of an individual or a community, and we need to talk about identity only when it is in crisis. Mercer has said, and maybe that's the reason why Professor Pandey had to talk about the Juni tribe. Else, the idea of identity of a particular community would have never popped up. So here I will be drawing on the conceptions of identity given by Stuart Hall. Stuart Hall has talked about three different conceptions. That is, one being the Enlightenment subject, where an individual's identity is unified. A person is born into this world, and more or less he is, he grows with his capacities of reason. There's a reason for saying he, because in those times the rational man was a man, not a woman. So here the identity essentially remains more or less the same, and it just unravels, unfolds itself as the person grows. The second form of identity that he's talking about is the sociological subject. Because as sociologists, we always believe that for growth of self, we need another. There is always an interaction. I cannot grow in isolation. So here identity brings along with it the structures where I am embedded in, the structures that I grow up with, and the structures I do contribute also. It is always a process. And it so happens that we see ourselves as cultural identities, that is offered to us by our society, and that's how we form our distinct being with our own identity. Talking about the other in very simple words is somebody who is not like me. So there are different ways of, putting the other self. First is when the dominant self stereotypification of a particular community, but with us it's complete invisibility. That's one form of othering. Second form of othering is when you tend to have, evaluate the particular community with certain standards. The standards that is being determined, the norms that is being determined by the dominant self. So here you come up with certain value judgments. Your identity of the modern society, the self that grew up in this modern era. Coming to the phase of late modernity, we could see certain sits in certain structural and institutional forms, and here we couldn't see any fixed notion of identity, because there was the idea of fixicity with the two former forms of identity. Talk about different forms of identity, say gender and sexuality. Normally we talked about somebody being a man or a woman. Take for example the idea of Superman. If you have read because Superman is representative of the ultimate man for us. The ultimate essence of masculinity comes with him. But if you look at the recent comics, because I am a great fan of comics, the Marvel comics in 2021, Superman in its present generation has been introduced as a bisexual. So that is how the idea of the coherent self has been completely fractured, and we do not see it in terms of a complete entity. Talking about the national identity. The national identity, normally the way Benedict Anderson has talked about the nation being an imagined community, because these are the shifts we have in your idea of community, because you might have read in your textbooks as to how we define a community where you have face-to-face relationship, you have a kind of a primary relationship. When it comes to the nation, we do not share a personalized kind of a relationship, but we imagine that we belong to a particular community. And today we see a fracturedness in that very coherent self of belonging to a national culture, in terms of refugees, in terms of the transmigration. We still had the previous paper on the Rohingyas, the diaspora population. So that's one part of it. Third, maybe when we talk about, Bourdieu has talked about it, the idea of consumption, or when Veblen talks about conspicuous consumption. Today it's like, I consume, therefore I am. So when we have, distantiated ourselves from the primordial ties, we look for of identity, and it is how we define ourselves, by what I wear, by how I carry myself. So this is a new kind of identity that is forming in the later times, in the late times of the late modernities. There are certain new identities which have a political connotations. Talk about the black community, or the the kind of hybrid identities, maybe in terms of diasporic communities, where they uphold things from from the traditional communities, and at the same time they try to pick up things from their the society that they have moved in. And another thing that I would like to introduce here is the idea of space. How space has actually can be taken as an entity that can be the basis of identity in the present times. I have here depended on Le Corbusiers' conception of production of space. Basically, Le Corbusier is talking about transformation and social production of space, but I do see him as a postmodern thinker, because he takes space which deals with the physicality of the space. We actually, the lived experience, the experiences of being in a society is carried out. So these are three basic dimensions of space, and I believe that somehow the physicality of space, the idea of perceived space has been severed from the other dimensions of space. That is the concept. It's not necessary that I need to, carry out my everyday life in the perceived space only. That is in the physicality. That comes with the conceived space is actually the virtual world or the mediatized me that I have created for myself. Because when you see yourself in the social media, you're definitely different from the real me that you are. And that has again become a new form of identity that we talk about today. So definitely the very idea of identity is being on the shift, and today we still have different more forms of identity being in the process. Thank you all. Would like to have your suggestions because I'm still working on it.
Line पड़ेगा? कितने बढ़िया, bravo. That way, now we are just kind of prisoners in the kind of this confined space. ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କୁ କହିବାକୁ ପଡ଼ିବ। ନା କଣ? ଗୋଟେ ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ହେଲା ଯେ ସମସ୍ତେ କଥା କହିବେ। କିନ୍ତୁ ପରସ୍ପର ଭିତରେ ଗପ ନୁହେଁ। ସେଇଟା ବି ଗୋଟେ ବଢ଼ିଆ ଗପ କଲେ ଗୋଟେ ଆମେ କ୍ଲାସରୁମରେ କ'ଣ କରୁ ଜାଣିଛ? ଲେକ୍ଚର ଦେଲା ପରେ ଆମ ପିଲାମାନେ ଷ୍ଟୁଡେଣ୍ଟସ୍ ମାନେ କୁହନ୍ତି ଯେ ଆମକୁ ପ୍ରଫେସର ସମୟ ଦେଉନାହାନ୍ତି ଟୁ ଟକ୍ ଟୁ ଇଚ୍ ଅଦର। ଖାଲି ପ୍ରଫେସର ଆସିକି ଭାଷଣ ଦଉଛନ୍ତି ଆଉ ତେଣୁ ଆମକୁ ଆମେ କଥା କାରଣ ଦେ ଲର୍ନ ଫ୍ରମ୍ ୱାନ୍ ଆନାଦର ରାଇଟ୍ ବିକଜ ଦ୍ୟାଟ୍ସ କଲ୍ଡ ଦ କାଇଣ୍ଡ ଅଫ୍ classroom exchange. So we introduce some concepts, then we ask you that okay, bring in your experience talking about concepts, then come back and present to us what you learned. So that's the way kind of you bring back the learning what you got from us rather than it is a one-sided learning. So this is a kind of a critique of modernity, by the way. Again, but this thank you. So I can see there's a lot of interest to respond to Dr. Patnaik's paper, Dr. Mahanti's paper. So let me invite Professor Wahida to say a few words, to comment. Please make your questions short and sweet.
I'd just like to comment.
Comments, okay.
Eager to have
Yeah, please. You want to come over here?
Yeah, because I want to be audible to you.
Please come.
Sorry.
Yeah. The space is yours. Then Professor Pandey. Anybody else?
A few quick comments on the second presentation. Let me admit that this has an excellent session with deep analysis and very stimulating ideas, great learning experience for a person like me. 2-3 comments only. One is that the planet Earth and the individual exist at two ends, and the relationship is mediated by several layers of institutions and structures. One